All right, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. My name is Carrie Simpson, and I'll be hosting. If you can hear me all right, please just type yes into the little box on the right-hand panel so I can be sure that you're hearing my words today and seeing the slides. Thanks, David. Nice to see you today. I'm glad you could join us. You can dress me down later for my inaccuracies. So David Delaney has joined us on the call today. And if any of you don't know David, David is one of the foremost experts of sales playbook development in the technology space. He focuses mostly on enterprise software. He's just an attendee, so he's not going to be chatting with you much today. But David is one of the people that I learned a lot about sales development from when we first started our business. In fact, David worked for OpenDNS, which was our very first vendor client, and that's how we met. And we will, for those of you who don't know, Tracy and I sold our sales appointment setting practice in the US to a competitor last week. That did not affect Managed Sales Pros, but a lot of our success we can trace back to the project that we did for OpenDNS. They were clients of ours for about 4 years, and then Cisco became clients afterwards, and that all started with David. So I'm wildly appreciative to him and very flattered that he decided to spend some time on the call today. So if you don't like what I say about sales playbooks today, you can blame David. I'm just kidding. David and I have a very different philosophy when it comes to outbound, but they do dovetail. So as I mentioned, my name is Carrie Simpson. I'm the CEO of Managed Sales Pros. We started our business in Winnipeg 7 years ago. We started Everywhere Managed, an American call center, in 2015. And we were delighted to exit last week. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. On the right-hand side, you'll see a panel. Some of you already found it to type in that you could hear me. You can chat with us here. You can ask us questions, and you are more than welcome to type those in as you think of them. I like to answer those questions at the end of the content presentation. So as you think of them, please, by all means, pop them in there, but I will get around to all of them at the end. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about sales playbooks and what they are. We're going to talk about moving beyond buyer personas and scripts. I want to talk about playbooks and the customer lifecycle, how you create a culture of sales accountability using your playbook, standard operating procedures, how do you get them documented and then followed by everyone in your organization? Why is that important? I want to talk about how sales playbooks protect your brand promise, and where to begin when creating sales playbooks. And I personally believe that you begin with the things that make you the most crazy. Consistency is essential through all sales and marketing processes. You never get results if you only do something once. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about measuring and improving and how you can do that annually by auditing your sales processes and improving them. As everyone knows, the world changes and it changes pretty fast. And I'm sure that there were people who had phenomenal marketing and sales plans and playbooks at the beginning of 2020 who were ready to grow aggressively. I know our growth plan for 2020 included 60% growth at 40% margins. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I'm sure I'm not the only person that had a calendar for the year that got thrown out the window. So being versatile and able to pivot quickly is also an essential part of building out your sales playbook. Remember that anything can and might happen. So what is a sales playbook? For those of you who have never created or used one before, a sales playbook outlines all of your sales process. So from lead acquisition all the way to closing the deal, a sales playbook guides the people that work for you through your process. It's used as a training manual for all new sales hires. And my personal belief is it should be used as a training manual for all new hires. Everybody is responsible for the sales process in an IT company. It is a comprehensive document that clarifies who does what. So at what point in the stage, who's accountable and who's responsible. It is a constantly improved and updated library of best practices. It is a brand promise delivery guide. So if there is a look, a feel, a way that you want your clients and prospects and peers interacting with you, whether that's fun and playful or professional and buttoned down, your sales playbook will address all of those things. Your sales playbook outlines your customer life cycle. So what happens at each step of the sales process? What do you need to create for those steps? And then what happens in the next one? How do you create a seamless transition from person to person, department to department, and from stage to next stage? So for example, from lead acquisition to moving into the sales and nurturing process, from moving from the sales and nurturing process into the closing process, and then into the closing, cross-sell, upsell, and then eventually offboarding process. There is a sales step in every piece of your business, and every person in your company should be well aware of what role they play in ensuring that your clients stay longer and spend more. So all in all, a sales playbook is an essential tool for sales success. Buyer personas are a marketing buzz phrase. So we talk about it a lot, but what does it actually mean? Right? A buyer persona implies that there are several types of people that will buy your products and services. And the buyer persona approach states that the only people that you're writing your marketing materials for, the only people that you're focusing on, the only people you want to attract are these buyer personas. So they encourage you to tell a story to a distinct person. So not just to IT business owners, but if I was going to curate a message for one of my buyer personas, I would pick one of my best clients, somebody that had come back to us time and time again, somebody who was supportive of our business and always offering referrals. I want hundreds of more clients just like that. So on this call today, that might be my friend Phil Proctor. He's been a great client to us over the years. So if I wanted to create messaging that would speak to Phil, I would think about specific things about him, his life, his business. What does he do? Where does he go? Does he golf? Does he read? Does he have children? Is he married? What does he like to do on the weekends? Where does he go on vacations? And then I would think about how I could craft messaging that would be attractive to him. And I would think about where he might see that messaging. If he's reading industry publications, I might want to advertise in those things. If he belongs to different associations, I might like to attend or speak at those things so that I could attract his attention and attention of other business owners just like him. A buyer persona is only a small part of the process, however. Right? Buyer personas are built and used in just one phase of the sales and marketing process, and that's attraction. You're trying to create interest for that particular buyer persona to start looking towards your company. Scripts are a big part of sales playbooks, but they aren't the be-all end-all. They aren't the only thing you want to think about. They're essential for training, and they're not just essential for training your sales team. They're essential for creating scripts for the user experience at your service desk, when you're asking for referrals, if you're engaging in cross-selling and upselling to your clients, when you're networking, when somebody picks up the phone, when anybody picks up the phone at your IT company, a script is helpful to keep everybody on message and everybody on brand. Scripts protect your brand. So scripts become part of your sales playbook, but they aren't the only thing. So buyer personas and scripts are usually two of the things that we focus aggressively on when creating a sales playbook. But I want to go beyond the script and the buyer persona and start talking about how you use your sales playbook in your customer life cycle. So there are stages in the buying sales cycle. Attraction, that's where you're planting the seed and you're trying to pull interest into your business. Interest is where you cultivate curiosity about your products and services. The decision stage is where you're creating confidence and trust and convincing someone that you may be the very best partner for them. And then action is the point where your prospect becomes your client. They purchase something. So your sales playbook has different steps and stages along each of those steps, and it's intended to create an inviting, professional, and well thought out or streamlined approach to the sales process so that people aren't feeling erratic when they're working with your company. Nobody likes to tell the same story over and over and over again. So there is a sales model called the predictable revenue model. And the way that it is best described is you use your least experienced, least talented, newest agents to take care of the very beginning of your funnel. And then you move in stages through to your more experienced, higher paid, better sales reps or your closers. The problem I've always experienced in that process is the handoff is never streamlined. So I don't want to explain my problems to 16 different people in different stages of the sales process. Now, if you think about your service desk and documentation and how you use documentation to create a seamless transition for clients that are experiencing challenges with their IT, your sales process should be very similar. The customer should tell you one time what they want, and it's now your job to make sure that the customer is heard and that that information is transitioned smoothly and carefully throughout your organization without inconveniencing the person that's buying. So always think about your sales process from the user experience. Don't think about what makes it easiest and best for your company. And I think that is the biggest challenge right now when it comes to software, playbooks, any of the things that are being promoted in the market right now. They're all being promoted to make your sales reps' lives easier. They're not talking a lot about how are we making our buyers' lives easier? How are we making it seamless for them? That's what I want to talk about. So when you're creating your sales playbook, think about all of the ways that a customer can interact with you from the moment you start prospecting or the moment you buy a list, for example, all the way to the end of the relationship with the client when they're offboarding. How are you interacting with them pre-sale? So what do your emails look like and sound like? How about your cold calls, your direct mail campaigns, any of your events? Once you've signed them on, what do your customer interactions look like post initial sale? So they're your clients now. Now you begin retaining that business. So what happens when a client calls in and asks for support? What happens on site when they require support? What happens in email exchanges? What's their online experience like if they're looking for something on your website? How about referral requests? How do you approach a happy client and ask them to recommend you to a peer? How do you ask for a testimonial? How are you cross-selling and upselling? How about renewal time? And how are you creating customer delight? At every step along your sales process, whether it's that initial acquisition of a new client or your land and expand approach to business, how is your sales playbook going to support you through that? And my personal belief is that a sales playbook should give you a pathway that everybody in your business can follow, and they should know what important part they play in that path. That comes from creating accountability. So a sales accountability culture is one where everyone in your office knows what part they play in finding, keeping, growing clients. So everybody is in sales, whether you joined that business to be in sales or not, from the person that answers your phone to the person on your level 2 help desk, right on through to the person that drives the truck to the company site. Everybody is perceived as somebody who can win or lose this business for you. If you think about the ways that an IT company normally loses a client, it usually doesn't happen after one big incident, right? It's usually a handful of things. So if you think about, I always think about it in terms of when I stay at a hotel. If I stay at a hotel and my check-in experience is immaculate, I go up to my room, I like the room. Maybe I don't like one particular thing about it, but it's not so bad. And then I go to the restaurant and the restaurant's fine. But if I check into that hotel and my experience checking in is terrible, the minute I go up to that room, I start looking for other flaws in that room, right? Oh, this bed's not very comfortable. God, did they ever clean the windows in here? It just becomes a death by 1,000 paper cuts experience. So if you can prevent that very first paper cut, or you can eliminate a lot of the points of friction along the sales and user experience process, that's how you create sales accountability culture. You think about points of friction, and then you train your team to eliminate them. Everybody's representing your brand every day. Not everyone can fix the computer, but everyone in your business can make your customer feel valued. And that feeling important, feeling like they are the only client that you're supporting that day, that's what keeps business. So how do your clients drive? Now, if you've got your cars wrapped and your guy is driving in and out of traffic, cutting people off, running red lights, things like that can negatively affect your business. That's a sales moment. What are they wearing? Right? Do they show up in shorts and a ripped t-shirt and a ball cap to talk to the CEO of a law firm? Or are they showing up in a nice polo shirt, branded? Do they look nice? Think about just the little things that create better user experience. And those are the things that go into the playbook. Here's the way that we keep and win business, right? Here's how we dress. Here's what we do. Here's how we talk. Here's how we drive, right? You might only get one shot to sign somebody. You might only get one shot to keep their business or to renew them at time of renewal. Most deals are won or lost in a micro decision, not using a logical, well thought out process, right? People aren't usually carefully evaluating how they feel about IT support. Something happens, they get a call at a time that's convenient based on how they've experienced the last month of their lives. They take that call and they start thinking about what they want to do next. So here at Managed Sales Pros, we spent the last 7 years trying to take your customers and give them to our customers. That's our whole job here. We're getting pretty good at it. So the things that we've heard over and over again are just little things like this. They never do what they say they're going to do. They're always late. I don't even know if that guy even worked for them. Maybe he was a contractor. I'm not sure, because the last guy that showed up was wearing this nice polo shirt and this guy showed up in like a pair of jeans or a tracksuit or whatever, right? Like there are moments where people are genuinely questioning, did they make the right decision? So if another company can catch that company in that moment of, I wonder if I made the right choice, they can then start picking apart little things. If you've eliminated those points of friction and all of those little things, it's really hard for somebody to have something to complain about. So the most important thing when creating sales accountability is leading by example. So if it's not important to you as the business owner or business leader, it's not important to anyone else either. So if you're the one who's going to write this playbook, you better be willing to live the playbook and create that sales accountability culture within your IT company. Sales playbooks create standard operating procedures, and standard operating procedures protect your brand promise. A standard operating procedure should define how your team is going to behave in all situations. And we can't think of all of them all the time. We don't know what's going to happen. But once something that isn't in that SOP book happens, it goes into the SOP, and now we have one. And it's everybody's job to create and improve those standard operating procedures and find them a home in the playbook in the appropriate part of the playbook. So is this something that happens when we're marketing to find new clients? Well, then it goes in that part of the sales playbook. Is this something that happens in the nurturing process? Well, then it gets inserted into there. Is it something that we do to create customer delight at the end of the sales process? So when they're offboarding, even if we've lost them, we want them to leave our client roster thinking happy things about us. So there is a place in every part of the sales and marketing process that every person in your company is going to play a role in. So what is your brand promise, and what do you look and feel like to the outside world, right? Managed Sales Pros created a kind of fun and eclectic, we get shit done and we always make it right. That's the brand that we tried to create. I think we did a pretty good job of that. So what does your brand look like? Is it friendly and helpful? Is it professional and experienced? Is it fun and playful? Is it we always go the extra mile for our customers? As the business owner, it's your job to create that brand and then to recruit and retain the people that buy into that brand promise and are ready and prepared to support the decisions that you're making to better that experience. And even better, they're coming up with ideas, bringing them back to you and saying, hey, what if we did this? What if we did this? This should go into the playbook. The standard operating procedures that you're creating to put into that playbook should define the role of each team member along the sales process. How do their specific actions help win and keep business? And conversely, how could their behavior hurt a relationship in the pre-sales or post-sales process? Those are the things you want to think about when you start creating your sales playbook. So well beyond who are we marketing to, how do we market to them, what kind of collateral are we using, and how often do we call them? I want you to start thinking bigger. I want you to start thinking about how your company can create a seamless user experience that is so consistent that other companies are envious of how you do it. Consider Zappos for a moment. Zappos has created a culture of training where at the end of every training class, somebody stands up and offers every person in that room $3,000 to quit. Just walk right out the door right now. And their claim to fame is that no one ever takes the $3,000. They took that training and they went not just into, I mean, they were acquired by Amazon, so things are a little different now. But at that time, companies were sending their executives to learn how Zappos did things. Right? They were so consistent. They were so on the ball. Their employees were so empowered to make choices that delighted their customers that they became the gold standard in customer support. How do you create that? Well, you create it with a playbook. So what do you fix first? If you're looking at your business right now going, okay, we could do better. I always think that you start with the things that are making you crazy. So if you think about the experiences that you have when you're dealing with other businesses, right, the things that stop you from buying things or the things that encourage you to buy things, what are the things that will make or break a buying decision for you personally? Do you hate it when people pass the buck and blame other people? Well, that's something you're going to look at in your own organization. How can we fix that? How do we get rid of that? Do you hate it when you have to wait on hold to talk to someone? I'm not waiting in line to give you my money. Figure it out. Right. So in that particular instance, how do you create something in your company that solves that problem? How do you make sure that nobody ever has to wait for more than 2 or 3 rings? Is that going to become part of your brand promise? Do you hate it when people show up to things late? Right? Do you hate it when you can't find a price on a website and you have to go looking for it? You have to call 7 different numbers and no one answers the phone and nobody responds to emails, right? Like, how do you create a seamless experience for people to buy from you? Do you hate being forced to fill out forms instead of just being able to call someone? Like, how do you eliminate the points of friction that stop people at certain points of your sales process? This is where your sales playbook comes in. You want to create a seamless transition for somebody to start as a prospect and move all the way through your sales process, loving your business all the way. Training will be essential. So your sales playbook becomes a training manual that not just your sales rep needs to study and improve, but everybody in your organization, anybody who interacts with a customer at any point along the process, they should be trained on your sales processes as well, and they should understand the part that they play. It is a playbook. Plays are run by teams. So we all do it or it's not going to work. Your playbook covers off all of your standard operating procedures for every stage in your sales process. All team members get trained to them. Everybody knows the playbook. And every team member, and this part is important, should be incentivized to improve the play. So if your tech comes to you and says, hey, I've thought of a way where we could eliminate hold times or decrease hold times. No, you owe it to that person to hear them out and see if you could actually implement and add that to your sales playbook. Once you start incentivizing people for processes and ideas over simply outcomes, they get a little more creative. And I think you'll be surprised when you put something on the table like that saying, hey, we're going to bonus everyone out on coming up with the best idea to improve this. So here's an example from our business, because we had a sales playbook to cover off pretty much everything that could ever happen on the phone. And the one thing that we were struggling with was that we have something called the triumvirate or the magic number. So if we're calling into the managed services market on behalf of a vendor, there are 3 numbers that we're looking at to decide, is this company a managed service provider or are they a VAR with a small managed service practice? Because occasionally vendors would say, we only want to talk to a pure play managed company. We don't want to talk to anybody that's just in the process of building one. We want to make sure that every endpoint is a managed endpoint. So we look at annual revenue, number of techs, and number of endpoints under management. And there is a ratio that those numbers should add up to in order for us to consider that a pure play managed service provider. And we were struggling because our agents continually would forget to fill in those fields, and we'd end up scheduling meetings that weren't qualified based on the parameters that our clients had asked us for. So we started using a suggestion that we found reading a book called Atomic Habits, where they described how they were able to reduce train accidents using a methodology called point and call, which was where they would simply point and say something before they would point and say the next thing. So if there were 8 things that had to happen in order for the train to leave safely, they'd go through them one at a time, point at it, call it, point at it, call it, point at it, call it. Seems pretty easy. And we thought, well, I'm pretty sure we could figure out how to make that work. And we had them physically touch that screen and say the number, touch that screen and say the number, touch that screen and say the number. Right? And if one of those numbers was missing, we couldn't carry on scheduling the appointment. And if any of the numbers were out of alignment, you couldn't carry on scheduling the appointment. Adding that simple step to our sales process increased the number of appointments that we were scheduling for vendors by 20% that quarter. Once you've got your playbook built and ready, it's going to be a living document. It's going to change every quarter. It's going to change every year. And if things work or don't work, they're going to have to get pulled out and put back in. So how do you measure and improve things? So for example, if your brand promise is going to include, we answer the phone in 2 rings or less. So at the end of the month, we look at our phone records and we identify how many times we missed the mark on that. Right? So if we were 20% below what we wanted to do, how are we going to improve? Then everyone gets together, comes up with ideas, everyone agrees on the plan, sets a new goal, and moves forward. So if the brand promises, we're never going to make our customers answer the same question twice on a support ticket. So they're going to call in, they're going to give us the information we need, and we're not going to make them say the same thing to the next person they have to talk to. We're going to document effectively. We're going to pass the information on from tech to tech. We aren't going to ask them twice. How do we ensure that happens? Then you'll go through your tickets at the end of the month and say, well, were we able to do this? No, how many times did we miss the mark? What do we need to do to fix this? Everyone will brainstorm, come up with an idea. That's going to go into the playbook. If you want your service team engaged in the sales process, if they're on site, are they able to clearly suggest products and services that would help our customers? And if you expect them to do that, how do you incentivize and measure their success at doing it, right? You didn't hire sales reps, you hired techs. So how do you convince your techs that this is going to be worth their time? How do you incentivize them? How do you reward them? And if it's not working, how do you go back to the drawing board and create something that will? Right? If your goal was, we're not going to have higher than 10% attrition this year, and your attrition was 15%, what did you do wrong? Right? If you wanted to increase sales by 20% this year and you only went up 10%, what can you do differently? If your goal was to take your sales cycle from 89 days down to 46, did you make it? And if your goal was, we're going to keep our customers for at least 3 renewals, are your customers staying longer? You review all these things annually and you adjust based on what you were able to achieve. And now we found the first time we tried goal setting, when we became a traction company, we were way, way, way off base. So if you're not great at setting smart goals at this point, you will get better at it. And it'll be an essential part of creating, maintaining, and managing that document. And remembering that every time it gets changed and updated, everyone else has to review it and sign off on it. Auditing things annually There's lots of ways that you could audit whether or not you're achieving the things that you wanted to achieve when you created your sales playbook. So if the goal of the sales playbook, again, was to increase sales by 20% and decrease attrition by 10 and commit to brand promises that were X, Y, and Z, how are you going to know, aside from pulling numbers from the back, whether or not you're able to pull off the things that you said you wanted to do? Secret shoppers work great. Just get your buddies to call in and ask for quotes. Ask your clients afterwards. Ask them to review their experiences with you honestly. And you can sit down and share with them the same way that you would sit down and share with them when you want a testimonial about how you're trying to grow your business and why you want more great customers just like them. You can explain to them that you're trying to create a more defined sales playbook. You want all of your customers to have a consistent user experience, and hey, what could we do better? Right? Most people love telling you their opinion. They love to tell you how you can improve. So people won't be resistant to sharing their experience with you. Look at your CSAT scores. Are you using a CSAT solution right now, or a customer satisfaction little smiley face feedback form on tickets? Are they going up or are they going down? If you're getting more smiley faces, you're doing great. And if you're getting fewer smiley faces, there is a problem that needs to be addressed. We find peer recognition to be one of the most essential ways that you can audit for success or failure. Are the people around you constantly acknowledging you for doing great stuff and following process? So we have core values here at Managed Sales Pros, and when one peer identifies somebody else living those core values with a customer, like it's drawn to everyone's attention. They get a little award. Sometimes we bring in bagels, but they also get a big ass trophy that sits on their desk. It's a big chicken, the big chicken from Moana. And Hey sits at that person's desk until they identify somebody who's going above and beyond to support one of our clients, and Hey moves over to their desk. So you always know at a glance on the call floor who has been the most recent acknowledged by their peers caller here at Managed Sales Pros, and it's been a lot of fun developing those things. And there should be an annual one-day review and update. So think about planning an offsite where you focus just on your sales process, just on your playbook, and what you should do to improve it. Everyone should bring ideas to the table. No ideas are bad in brainstorming, and you can start collaborating and creating processes that you can then test and test again. There's no reason you can't test multiple things, multiple ways. And when you decide that this is the right one for you, even if everyone doesn't agree, everyone gets on board and starts rowing in the same direction. And your sales playbook is gospel until you change it again. So if it says that this is how we do it in the sales playbook, this is how we do it. So think about things like, how can you empower your team to do the things that you want them doing? So we have a client in Georgia, for example, and when I read their core values, they had like 2 pages of them, which I remember thinking was a lot. And I read through them and I'm like, I don't know how these guys even make money. None of this makes sense. But one of their core values was nothing is out of scope. Right? And when I asked him about that, when I asked him what that meant, he said that every employee has a $500 budget, is $500, and he can solve any problem he wants in any way he wants. So no matter what happens, an employee has $500 to spend to fix it. And one of his employees went and picked up somebody and changed their tire by the side of the road and took them to the tire store, bought them a new tire. Right? That's what they did with their $500. That client has been on their roster for over 10 years now, and rightly so. So think about little ways that your team can engage with your clients and delight them. Like, how can your sales playbook encourage people to think outside the box and create user experience that ensures that your clients don't even take our calls when we call you? So how can Managed Sales Pros help? Well, we can help you do the heavy lifting. We can help you build that playbook unique to you. And if you're interested in that solution, just email me at hello@managedsalespros.com. Other services that we offer here, we offer consulting. We can help you build your own sales lead generation program in-house. We offer training. If you want to learn how to prospect, or you'd like us to teach your sales team how to prospect, we're happy to help. We offer lead generation, which means you can outsource your sales development to the interest stage. We find them and qualify them. You take it from there. And we offer full cycle sales appointment setting where you outsource the management and the execution of your sales prospecting so that all you have to do is attend sales meetings and provide feedback. Again, if you want more information about any of the things that we're doing, hello@Managed Sales Pros is how you'll reach us. I have a lot of time for Q&A now. So if you've got questions about your sales process, if you've got questions about creating a playbook, I would be more than happy to answer any of them. So one comment is that they found that the way most clients are lost is because they drift away, like they weren't paying enough attention, which is absolutely true. It's kind of like a marriage, right? When the relationship is new and you're both infatuated with each other, everybody's always thinking of extra special ways to make the other person's life better. And 5 years later, 10 years later, both people kind of take each other for granted and that magic is gone. Your clients are the exact same, right? If you used to bring them donuts once a week and then one day you just decided you weren't going to do that anymore, when then somebody else comes and brings donuts to their office, maybe they take their phone call next time. So the next comment was re-engagement strategies. Carol, are you asking for suggestions on how you would re-engage, and can you maybe write that question as a question so I know what you'd like to ask? Can you give me a specific situation, for example, where you would want a re-engagement strategy or a follow-up procedure? Is that in the prospecting phase, or is that with a client that you have currently? So if the client is still on your roster and they're just not engaging with you the way that they used to, you're going to have to take the lead in bringing them back around. So consider COVID has made it very difficult for us to do the things that we used to do to engage and delight our clients. So if you used to host parties that you invited your clients to, or you used to drop by their office, for example, and all of those things are right out the window now. So we have to be a little more creative about how we're doing things that our clients might appreciate. And I know that we've had some interesting luck with sending just like interesting gifts to people. So we started sending books, for example, to our clients, and we let them know how we use the book to change something in our process. So Atomic Habits was an excellent example of this. Everybody read Atomic Habits on our leadership team. We all read it together, and we all tried to implement some of the things in our own personal lives. And then we started thinking about how we could take the things that we learned in Atomic Habits and apply them to our client campaigns. So how could we make everything that we were doing for our clients 1% better every day? And we sent all of our clients a copy of that book, and we sent them our Cliff Notes. And one of our clients misheard us when we were speaking to him about it, and he thought that we said a ton of cabbage and not a ton of Atomic Habits. And he continually sent us Amazon Now bags filled with cabbage for the next 6 months. So sometimes that can work out really well. We've got a great relationship with that client. We had a lot of salad after that, and he's been a great reference point for us. He's been a great testimonial, and he's also brought a lot of business our way. So something little like that, where that says like, hey, not only were we thinking about you, but we're thinking about you in ways that allow us to become better providers for you. And sending someone a book is always really nice. Somebody is asking, would you consider it a positive technique to have all employees streamline their LinkedIn About Me to the company's mission to create the community of sales for those looking into our company? So Carol, I wouldn't ever encourage you to demand that your employees do anything with their personal LinkedIn profiles. Like those are unique to those people. And I think that if you end up terminating an employee, for example, and all of a sudden they strip all those positive things about your business off of their LinkedIn profiles, it's very obvious that the relationship went badly. I think there should be policies around what your employees can and cannot say on LinkedIn or anywhere else about your business, like a non-disparagement clause, for example. Like you really don't want your employees using their personal social media to say anything about their business. Have a business social media account, and if you want them promoting your social media or you promoting you through their social media, you can create unique accounts. Like, you know, if I wanted Tracy, for example, to only talk about managed sales pros on social media, she could have a Tracy Orisco managed sales pros LinkedIn account, but I should own that account. I should have the passwords for that account. I should be able to shut that account down or edit that account. And certainly if she leaves, I should be able to maintain ownership of that account. And I don't know if that goes against LinkedIn's terms of service, but I don't even want my team members using LinkedIn at work. I want them working. So the next question is, will you work with a single person shop with a blend of, that question is really long, I have to open it. Will I work with a single person shop with a blend of break fix, VAR, and MSP clients? Yes. I think when you're looking at social media, Carol, you want to be really, really mindful of the fact that these people had a life before they joined your business, and they're going to have a life after they leave your business. And you don't really want your business associated with the guy that gets caught, you know, doing drugs at a bar somewhere and arrested. And, you know, now it's all over everything. And he is so tightly linked to your company because you demanded that he post every day, every day, every day. So think about the good things about social media. Yes, some saturation is fantastic, but there's also a lot of negative things that can happen when you get your employees like putting messaging out there. And I mean, when you think about it, how are you going to police that? Are you going to watch their LinkedIn profiles and then come back to them and say, I didn't like what you wrote about us? There's a lot of, as opposed to encouraging them to post about you, I would encourage them to not post about you. They can post ideas. They can post things about what they do. They can post useful articles. They don't need to post specific things about your business. Next question was, do you use the EOS process in our company? We absolutely do. And it was a game changer. If you have been thinking about whether or not EOS traction will work for you, I can tell you that it absolutely worked for us. We used Jameson West from ConnectStrat as our facilitator. We were his first client. We agreed to work with him right when he got certified. And so we got a sweetheart of a deal. And the difference for us was the first year after we finished traction, we saw a 50% increase in our top line and an 800% increase on our bottom line. So that was a pretty good year. So when you think about how traction aligns with things like Playbooks, it absolutely could be a tool that you would use in your 1 day or your 2 day. You know, you're going to learn, if you just started the process, you're going to learn all sorts of new language. And I mean, all of them are a little bit the same. Traction is kind of like the one-page plan, and a little bit like StratOps. I mean, they all overlap a little bit, but we found for our business anyway, the the traction process was essential because we were a family-based business. So 3 of our leadership team, had known each other for their entire lives. We brought somebody new into the leadership team who was a little bit timid about going head to head with any of us because obviously we all talked offline all the time. So we wanted a facilitator there to make sure that her voice was always heard. And I hope you have the success that we did with it, Chris. It was a phenomenal experience. I can't say enough good things about it, and I'll definitely use it in my next business. We've got about 10 more minutes if anyone else has questions. And somebody mentioned a playbook would help remove some of the individuality from sales, right? So that a green salesperson could jump in and be just as good. How do you deal with the lack of in-person, which was the highest close rate we had? So are you saying that since you're unable to close deals face-to-face, your closing ratio has gone down? I think everybody's experienced that where, if you're a really dynamic person and a great closer and that doesn't come across as well when you aren't sitting face to face with someone, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of disappointment there, but here's hoping that doesn't last forever. Removing the individuality from sales isn't necessarily a terrible thing. Right, the streamlining of the process means that everybody's experiencing it in the same way, and that's essential for catching problems quickly. Right, so you can catch those anomalies really quickly when they're anomalies. If everything is an exception and an anomaly, you're never going to catch the things that are affecting your sales process negatively. Right, so if everybody's version of how they move through the sales process differs from everyone else's, you as the business leader can't look at 3 sales reps and identify which of them is doing things that are helping you and which of them are doing things that are hurting you. And from a brand and systems perspective, it's critical to remove that personality wildcard from a process. I mean, you don't want to beat people into personality-less drones. The way that we got around that was we create talking points instead of scripts. So we don't create things that people are going to read word for word. We sit down with the caller and we sit down with the client and we sit down with all of the collateral that we have available to us. And the first thing we do is eliminate anything that isn't factual or can't be quantified. So if companies are saying we're the best, we're the greatest, we're the this, we're the that, like, no, did you win an award or something? Is there any way to prove that? No, 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 no. Like, what are the facts? Well, you've been in business for 20 years. That's a fact. Right? How many employees do you have? We have 13 employees. That's a fact. Right? So you go through all of that stuff and you identify the things that are people are most likely to ask. And things in the managed services space, you are asked things like, how many clients do you have? How big are your clients? What kind of clients do you work with? How long has your business been around for? The things that people are going to ask over and over and over again, those are the things that you want clearly laid out on that talking point document. It doesn't have to be a, hi, it's Carrie calling from Clear Concepts, and we are a managed services company in Winnipeg. We work with lawyers, and like, you really don't want that robotic approach to it, but you want to be able to have a conversation that sounds authentic to you. So what I don't want is to create 50 Carries who are using words that I would use. Like, I will drop an F-bomb on a call from time to time and not even think twice of it. But that's my personality, and most people expect that from me. And oh, by the way, I own the company, so if I want to swear on a call, I can. But your callers need to have words coming out of their mouths that they would use in sentences, right? If I would use a larger, dictionary word that one of my callers would never use and they would stumble over it, you want to remove that from their vernacular. You don't want them to have to say something that feels weird in their mouth and feels fake to them. The minute a caller has to deliver a message that doesn't feel authentic to them, it's not going to feel authentic to the person receiving it either. So your sales playbook is a Bible, but I mean, the Bible can be interpreted a lot of different ways. So there should be room for unique interpretation. What there shouldn't be room for is just going right off the rails. There are guidelines, right? There are guardrails put into place so that your team is providing a consistent experience. And I can't say enough about user experience inbound. So you're spending money on SEO, you're spending money with marketing firms and cold calling companies, and when your phone rings, what happens, right? Is somebody always answering your phone? And are they always answering the phone the same way? Do people get stuck in an IVR loop that they can never get out of? Are they pushed to the help desk, and does the help desk know what to do when that happens? And if they accidentally push the wrong button and they end up talking to an engineer instead of a sales rep, is the engineer answering the phone the exact same way that the sales team would have, so that that first interaction with your client isn't somebody saying, "What?" Right? You want everyone answering the phone the same way. So for us, it's a great day at Managed Sales Pros. How can I help you? So no matter who's being called, from the CEO all the way down to somebody on the call floor, it's a great day at Managed Sales Pros. Right? That's the way everyone answers the phone. And that way we don't know if it's the CEO, the receptionist, the help desk, anybody. And yeah, Phil, that was a great point. You have to make it your own. Right? You want people to own the messaging. You want them to be proud of the job that they're doing every day, and you want them to think critically, right? They aren't robots. The more interesting you can make people's jobs, the more they're going to enjoy them. So I guess one leave behind today. I don't want you walking away from this thinking that I don't believe that buyer personas are important. I do believe they are important. I believe they are a part of the process that people are spending a lot of time on right now. But I think people are foregoing important things like customer lifecycle and user experience in favor of front loading their sales playbook in their marketing funnel. So if you're spending all of your time thinking about how do we attract people to our business and no time thinking, how do we keep our customers? How do we make sure our employees are motivated to provide the absolute best experience that anyone could have anytime they call our company? How do we make sure that we don't have that, or that we're not just filling that leaky bucket over and over and over again? Next comment was, as a single person shop, our sales process is just what I've tried that works, mixed in with stuff I've learned from other industries, training, etc. Do you give us a process that works that we can adapt or implement, or do we have to come up with most of that? That really depends on budget. I can hand you something that's already created, where all we have to do is customize it for your unique use case, or we can sit down together, look at what you're trying to create, and create something unique for you. But I mean, with one person, your sales playbook is going to be what you have time for, the end, right? If you're a one-man shop and you're doing everything, you're not going to need a playbook as badly as somebody who's a 30-person shop and has 5 sales reps and 10 techs. Like, you know exactly what you said to the person that just called. So there's not a lot of call for there to be some continuity of messaging. If you start creating the processes that you want now, you don't have to rip and replace them 10 people from now. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is we don't think about the business we want to have in 5 years or 10 years. We think about the business we have today, and we duct tape things together. And then eventually we get to the point where we're like, okay, this is a mess. We're going to have to fix this. And then it becomes a long and expensive battle. So as a single person shop, you can begin thinking about the company that you want to be 5 years from now, and the bridge that you build to get from one person to 10. and then prioritize the things that are going to be most important to you as you grow. So where do you want to be in 5 years, and what do you want to be doing? If you want to be in a sales role in 5 years, then you're going to aggressively focus on how you're going to create the role that you want. If you want to be doing something completely different and you hate sales, you're going to have to partner with somebody who doesn't hate sales, and with them create the processes or the playbook that you're going to want them following. And your role will be accountability and not responsibility in that part of the process. Now, just to be really mindful of everyone's time, it's 5 minutes to the hour. This has been great. I really enjoyed it. If you have any questions that I didn't get to, I'd love to answer them. It's hello@managedsalespros.com. Yeah, always nice to see you guys. Next week, I hope you'll join us. CJ Arlotta from CJ Media Solutions and Marie Rourke from White Fox PR are going to join me next Tuesday, the 22nd, to teach you how to write content and press releases to promote your MSP. So let's find ways to promote your business to external places where you can be a subject matter expert and start selling one-to-many instead of one-to-one. I hope you'll join me. It's going to be a great session. Thanks everyone for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye now.